And away we go. It is the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com. You know the deal. www, not quick paper supply, Galactic Fried Chicken. www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app for Android, iPhone. There we go. Everything Galactic. Go to the app. They will bring it right to your front door, pretty much anywhere inside the 275 loop. Or get down to Dayton, Kentucky, Wednesday through Sunday, lunch and dinner, and get yourself some of that Galactic goodness. Tendies, fried chicken, Galactic sauce, awesome fries, coleslaw, out of this world. Fried pickles, you know the drill. All right, Aaron, let's get to it. Great show with Dave tonight. Got our Houston preview in. Talked a lot of camp. Gave kind of a different take on realignment than we've had as we've covered the specifics of it, but more of a column style editorial on where we stand on realignment. So a great BCJ pod tonight, but that means we still have a nightcap to do.
Always do.
Here we go. Boom. Aaron in the driver's seat. Let's go.
So Chris Hummer of 24/7 today wrote an article titled "The Transfer Quarterback Era is Accelerating. Over 62% of projected Power 5 starters are transfers." Goes on to talk about over 60% of projected Power 5 are starting quarterbacks for 2023 are transfers. 43 of the 69, giving 62.3%, including Notre Dame, have transferred at least once, up from 45% in 2022. Last season, 48% of week one starters were transfers. So kind of gives you an idea as to where things are. He also broke down by conference, the ACC 7 of 14, the Big 12 9 of 14, the Big 10 8 of 14, the Pac-12 11 of 12, and the SEC 7 of 14.
It is fascinating how this is happening, but it's not surprising.
One last stat I wanted to give. Clint Brewster gave his quarterback rankings list. 6 of his top 7 quarterbacks and 17 of his top 25 were transfers.
Yeah, so this is kind of what we've talked about in basketball. Football is a little different except for quarterback. Like quarterback is like basketball, right? Like it's like point guard. Like it's a position that requires age. It requires experience. It requires reps. Well, guess what's happening, Aaron? Every school recruits a quarterback in every cycle, right?
Yep, at least one.
And sometimes two. Like at least, like if you're in college recruiting and you don't recruit a quarterback every cycle, you're an idiot. I wonder if that's going to change because schools are just going to be like, we don't like the one. Like, we don't like where our board is at this year. We'll just go get one next year.
And in the portal.
Where that screws you up is if there's injuries in the season where you need the bodies. But I think schools are just looking at this and saying, we're going to let somebody else develop them. And we're going to find...
Just like basketball.
Right. This is what's happening as the portal is becoming more prominent, is that they're saying, okay, we could develop them, but guess what's going to happen? We're going to have a guy that wins the job. And he's going to be maybe a redshirt sophomore when he wins the job. And he's going to be a redshirt sophomore and then a redshirt junior. And if he's not a first-round pick or whatever, then he's going to be a redshirt senior. We're going to have a 3-year window in our program where we have a quarterback. And guess what's going to happen? Everybody under him is going to transfer out.
Sure.
Because they know they're probably not going to play. Now, these decisions are made in the vacuum. Like what has always happened? Okay, well, I wait my turn, and guess what? That guy gets hurt. And now I get 5 starts my sophomore year.
Yeah.
Because that guy was out 5 games. Then he comes back, he takes his job back, he plays the next year. But now I'm a veteran quarterback. And by the time I get to my redshirt junior year, when I take over, I'm on the way up. Instead, they transfer out after their redshirt freshman year because they waited 2 years. They don't have a direct line. Like, they're not going to be the starting quarterback this year. I'm going to go somewhere else. And guess what happens? They go somewhere else and they become the starter because they're new and flashy and like they're not the guy that started 5 games when the starter that just graduated got hurt that stunk.
And then, well, I guess for Cincinnati, I don't see that becoming a huge issue for Cincinnati until you start bringing in those high 3 and 4-star quarterbacks every single year, 5-star especially, because those guys are not going to have it.
Samaj Jones.
Those are high 3s.
That's what you just said. That high 3, low 4-star.
You're right.
Brady ended up a composite 4-star.
I'm curious to see what happens with those guys, though, in Cincinnati, if they can be patient, if they can wait their turn, or in Brady Drogash's case, if he can pass up a Brady Lichtenberg.
Right. Well, that's where this becomes interesting. Like, Emory Jones is here this year.
Right.
Ben Bryant's gone.
Correct.
Luther Richardson, rest in peace. I'm kidding. He didn't. I'm kidding. Sorry. It's a bad joke. I'm sorry. But yeah, like, if Brady Lichtenberg is the starter next year, well, now you have a redshirt freshman and a true freshman behind a guy that, if he wins the job, would theoretically have 2 years as a starting quarterback. So now Brady Drogosh would not be the starter as a redshirt freshman or as a redshirt sophomore. It would take him until his redshirt junior year. Does he have that patience? And then the ultimate what if, Aaron? Let's say Brady Drogosh wins the starting job next year.
What happens with
he's
Samaj
a redshirt
Jones?
freshman. What happens to Samaj Jones? Then also, what happens to recruiting high school quarterbacks?
Or Brady Lichtenberg, for that matter.
Right. Now you've lost your back. Like, you're one of, like, but what happens to the high school quarterbacks in 26, 25, 26, 27, who now you've got a
redshirt sophomore.
No, a redshirt freshman. If he wins the job next year, he'd be a redshirt freshman.
Yeah.
Or a redshirt sophomore when you're going to be a freshman, or a redshirt junior when you're going to be a. But like that now, the quarterback thing is way like. Well, let's get down to what like at wide receiver. There's 3 wide receivers.
Correct.
There's 2 outside wide receivers and a slot wide receiver.
Sometimes 4, depending on the package.
Right, but like but there's still like you might have 2 slots,
3 positions.
Like there's 3 positions. At running back, there's like your bell cow back, your scat back, your blocking third down type back.
Sometimes a goal line.
Right, a goal line, a power back. Like there's subsets of running backs.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks, there's starting quarterback.
That's it. Well, and I mean, we remember what Luke did. Luke would get a pocket passer, and then he would recruit
Hated it. Now that we can talk about it, I hated it.
It didn't make much sense, right? I mean, you're either developing your offense for one style quarterback or the other, not both.
Right. We want both. We want to have both guys in the system, so we can run both types of offenses.
That doesn't.
No.
He was a defensive coach.
He was. What he wanted to do, here's the funniest part about that, Aaron, is what he wanted to do is look at the offensive coordinator and say, I gave you the tools. You got passing quarterbacks, you got running quarterbacks, you got da-da-da-da-da. Like, make it happen. Make it work. I'm a defensive guy. I did, like, as an offensive coach, you're like, no, I want this.
That's a special mindset.
Well, yeah, but that's what, like, if you're only comfortable with half the job, that's what you do to the other half, right? You say, what? I don't know what I've given you. I've given you pocket passers. I've given you running quarterbacks. I've given you.
Well, so now with Scott Satterfield, obviously he wants a guy that can scramble.
Well, a little bit more, not even necessarily scramble, but a guy that can get the offense to the edges, because that's outside zone. Like it's not drop back. The only reason I take don't say scramble. Scramble is I want a guy that can escape up the middle when pressure comes on the outside, like a pocket passer with mobility. He doesn't want that. He wants zone read. He wants a guy that can get the offense to the edge and run offense where, it's like Nick Cardwell talked about in the interview that I did with him. You can find it right here on this YouTube channel. It's a really good interview. They want the defense to run. What do you say? The extra, like the average on outside zone is they run an extra 1.5 yards per play. They make the defense run an extra 1.5 yards per play. So they want quarterbacks that can play on the edge. So they have an identity, at least, that they're recruiting to, which I think is really good, because that was annoying. That if they're like, okay, well, what are we looking at now? And then they would go, okay, here's a running quarterback, here's a pocket quarterback, here's a guy that it doesn't fit the 1-1-1-1-1-1-1, but we really liked him. Okay, well then now you got 2 pocket passers and 1 runner, and what's the identity of what you want to do?
I think,
but that's college football now. To get away from that was a tangent.
That's why I bit my tongue.
That's a tangent. Yeah, that's a tangent. But guys aren't waiting. Quarterbacks, highly rated quarterbacks. If you're one of these programs in the top quarter of the sport, you're bringing in a 4-star or a high 3-star quarterback every year. Guess what? You don't change quarterbacks every year. So guys are going to transfer. And then they're going to end up somewhere else. And now we're looking around the sport, and almost every starting quarterback is a transfer. It's wild.
Yeah, I don't know what until they really start hammering down. And obviously we'll see we've already started to see some of that even this football season with the transfer rules in place. Unless you're a grad transfer, that second transfer, even if you didn't play a game.
Aaron, but they're going to the next place and starting. Like that's the thing those numbers are telling us.
Yeah.
They're leaving where they're at and they're going to the next place and becoming the starting quarterback.
I'm just saying, if you're going to make a move, you have to make sure that you're making the move to start. Otherwise, You're putting yourself in a real bad spot at that point.
Yeah. Well, like a team bringing in 2 transfers, and you guys are going to duke it out, and one of you now has to graduate before you can transfer again.
Yeah, or win the job.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you don't win the job and like they bring in 2 transfers, one of you is going to start, the other one is going to be screwed until he graduates and he can try to transfer again. It's another one of those transfer portal things that until it happens and you start seeing the numbers, you don't understand how much it impacts the sport. 64% of Power 5 quarterbacks are transfers.
It's absolutely crazy. 4 of the last 6 Heisman Trophy winners have been
transfers.
So it's not going away anytime soon. It's something that obviously we'll have to keep a pulse on, as you pointed out, that this team could find itself in a situation if they bring in somebody next season, as they did this year with Emory Jones. Now you're looking at a whole different set of issues than you would be if Lichtenberg won the job, if Drogosh won the job.
Well, if you bring in a transfer, you're going to lose Lichtenberg probably.
I would imagine.
I would assume.
I think
and then potentially Drogosh if it's a guy with more than 1 year.
Yeah.
And then Samaj Jones looks and goes, oh, they brought in a transfer quarterback. Like, I'm not going to get a chance to win this job. Like, the ripple down effect at quarterback. Guess what? Quarterbacks want to play. That's
all of
their
them.
quarterback. They all want to play. They don't want to sit and wait. So it's a wrinkle in the sport that's going to be really interesting to watch. Sorry for the tangent on the previous regime. We'll see you tomorrow night. That's the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya.